there's a really big problem with the Democrats and their non-responsiveness to violence. In the past, they always used it. They always embraced their violence. They would put on their white KKK hoods and they would go out and attack black folks. They would attack folks who stood up for black folks. They would attack white folks who didn't agree with them. They would attack anyone who didn't agree with them. So the KKK, they got outed by the CIA and by the FBI. And what do you see happening now? You see Antifa being infiltrated by the FBI and the CIA. You see arrests happening. You see New Jersey calling Antifa a terrorist organization. You do, because we're catching on again. The Democrats, they were hiding for the past 50, 60 years, hiding their violence, hiding their hatred. But now they're fully exposed again. And we see it in Antifa, we see it in their leadership. We see it in Nancy Pelosi, we see it all over. So they're exposed again. So I think it's a matter of time, just like the KKK of old, the Democrat organization, the new KKK, Antifa, they're going to be shut down too. It's just a matter of time. One thing that you really got to remember too about the Democrats is that after they had all those problems with the KKK and, being the party of slavery, they thought, hey, we're going to lose elections. I think we better remake our brand. I think we better change things up. And so they started this pattern of changing their actual message and their tactics and their goals. So they had a remake in the 1960s, late 50s and 60s. Little history lesson for those of you who are my age and younger, or those of you who maybe have seen it. What they did in 1964 is they passed what's called the Immigration Act. The Immigration Act would forever change the makeup of this country. The Immigration Act was passed by the Democrats and heavily supported by Lyndon B. Johnson, Kennedy. Kennedy was the main one, but after him, Johnson and the others supported it mainly. But the Immigration Act changed the immigration patterns in this country, stopping European immigration from coming here and changing the preferences that we had for South America, the Middle East, Africa. All of those things changed in the 1964 Immigration Act because the Democrats came up with a plan. The Democrats said, we're not going to be the party of the KKK. We're not going to be the party of racists anymore. We're going to be the party of identity politics. We're going to be the party of race-based politics. We're going to focus in on race as our driving issue. And so you have a character that some of you may know of, Lyndon B. Johnson. He was president of this country. Lyndon B. Johnson sat there and said to the Democrats, I'm going to get the black vote for 200 years for the Democrats because we are changing the way that we do business. Johnson was a complete snake. And what you see is President Trump, he got 8% of the African American vote. That's actually really good for a Republican candidate. The Democrats, because of their changes in the 60s, they targeted the black community and said, we're going to make their votes our votes. And since that time, with the help of the Immigration Act as well, they have made race-based politics their absolute number one issue. And so that's another reason that I want to talk about the history of the Democrat violence, because Lyndon B. Johnson helped create the Great Society. I don't know if you know what the Great Society is, but the Great Society was targeted by Lyndon B. Johnson to be the saving grace of America's lower class populations. What he didn't like to say is that he was specifically targeting the black community to make sure that they received handouts from the Democrats as a pattern for things to come. A lot of the black folks are waking up and they know what the Democrats have done to them. They know what the Democrats are still trying to do. And so I think a lot of moderate folks, whether you're black, white, Asian, Hispanic, Indian, whatever you may be, whatever you are, you can identify as an American. And you can recognize that the Democrats are not the answer to racism. They promote it. They are the ones who have essentially sat there and developed it in this country into the fine-tuned machine that it is now. And so, in the name of the Great Society, Johnson created all these social entitlement programs that we still have today. There's something that, in response to those programs, different groups were told, hey, these programs are for you. You need to recognize that and develop your politics around these programs. So what do you see today? The Great Society entitlement programs that we have today, they're from the 60s. You think they're still as relevant as they were in the 1960s? Probably not. I would guess not. But they continue those, and they continue funding them and using them as this carrot, if you will, for the folks that they have created this class of voters. And it's a shame. And so, really, moving forward, the Democrats, over the last 50, 60 years, what they've really done is tried to rebrand themselves, like I mentioned earlier. They don't want to be the racist party. They don't want to be the party of, race-based politics, unless it's their race-based politics, right? And so they sit there, and for the last 50 or 60 years, they beat the hell out of the Republicans, culturally, socially, in the schools, you name it. We've been losing the culture war in this country big time. We really have been. If you haven't been paying attention, they own the TV, they own the colleges, they own the public schools, you name it. Culturally, the war has been over for a long time, and now we're starting it up again. That's what I love, is that we are standing up for not only Republican values, American values, we're standing up for American culture. We're standing up for the thought that your race should not identify your politics. Your race should not dictate the way that you vote and act. And that's what the Democrats want to tell people, that it should. It should. One thing that I really want to make a point of is that if you see how the Democrats act, not just in Oregon, but all over the country, they slander Republicans endlessly with Nazi, with racism, with xenophobia, with everything under the sun. It doesn't even matter if you're white or you're not white. They will call you a white supremacist. They can have Tiny, who has shown up at lots of rallies. He's a Samoan guy. He's called a white supremacist. I never knew it, I guess, until they labeled him one.